Hello and welcome back to the channel and welcome to an updated top 10 favorite movies list. So I know about 2 years ago I did two videos where I actually broke down my top 20 because when I first decided to do this type of video, I went through my collection and I think I said I picked out like 40 to 50 movies, and then trying to condense it down took a while. Um, this time it was not that hard because my list has changed. There are still some titles here that are still on the list, but their placements have definitely shifted. So the main reason why I decided to do something to do this list again is from doing the 30-day movie challenge, where as that film was coming to an end, that series was coming to an end last June, and it came to the last question: is your favorite movie? At the time, I said what my favorite movie of all time was at that time, which was Howl's Moving Castle. The same way I had it as my number one, and the last time I did this top 10 list. But as I made that video, I was thinking to myself, I don't think Howl's Moving Castle is my favorite film of all time anymore. And so I went and I sat with myself and I thought, okay, if it's not Howl, what is my all-time favorite movie? So that's what this list is going to be. Is going over my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I'm going to have to rejig the order to go, because I initially had it from 1 to 10. Now I need to go 10 to 1. And starting off at number 10, because I don't even think it made the top 10 last time, but the more I think about it, the more it is in one of my favorite films of all time, and that is Part. So Part is basically, I mentioned this movie actually in a video I did last month where I mentioned 3 hidden gem movies that I think you should watch. And so that's why I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, because I did it for that video. If you want to know why I chose this video, you want to go check that video out. Obviously after you've watched this video, or you can go back and come back. I'm not your dad. You can do what you want. But yeah, Part is at number 9. Now, moving on to, not number 9, number 10. Number 9, however, is Wall-E. Now, I definitely had this on my list. I can't exactly remember where I placed it the last time, but from rewatching it this year, it just reminded me of just how much I actually really love this film. And I think it's actually the best Pixar film of all time, and it's another film that I really hope never gets a sequel, because it does not need a sequel. It is perfectly fine to have it as a one-off movie. Here's hoping it stays like that. But yeah, it's an amazing film because it has this overarching story, but there's hidden messages in between. Like seeing the planet just being absolutely riddled with dirt to the point where there's no vegetation, nothing can grow on this planet, and that's our fault. There's that environmental message to it. There's also a healthy, even predicted screens, us being addicted to our screens in this film from 2008, where it depicted us being so overweight that we just relied on screens the entire time whilst on the ship. So there's definitely a lot of hidden, social commentary messages in that. That's way ahead of its time in a lot of those. So that is why Wall-E is my number 9 pick. Now moving on to a film that I didn't have on my list the last time, because I'm 99% sure that I didn't, and that is the Irish film Philomena. Now I watched this for the first time last year or 2023. I can't remember. It's been a while. But I absolutely love this film because it's obviously based on the book Philomena, about how the real life person Philomena, when she had a child out of wedlock, so she was forced to go to the nuns, and the nuns sold her son off to an American couple, as an adoption, and to the point, and that was rampant in Ireland in that time, up like for good, even into like the 60s and 70s, I think, that it was still a thing, to the point now where a lot of the children that were born here, that were born with those nuns, are dead. You know, they either they didn't make it or neglect or what have you, to the point where they were all buried in a septic tank, which is now being exhumed. As of filming this on the 16th of July, that has started, and it's gonna be a multi-year process to identify the remains of all of those babies that should be alive today, you know? And that's one of the main reasons why I have a massive disdain for the Catholic Church in Ireland, specifically Ireland. But yeah, anyway, moving on to my number 7 pick, which is going to go to The Pianist. Now, this film, I've seen it once, don't need to see it again, so why am I having it in my as my 7th favorite film of all time? Simply because of just how impactful it was. You know, this film, within the first 30 minutes of its 149-minute runtime, I was left speechless. No, actually, sorry, I take that back. I was in near tears. I was in near tears within the first half hour, and then by the end of the film, I was speechless for a good 2 hours. That's how impactful this film is, and Adrian Brody done an amazing job on this, because, you know, this was a film that I mentioned in my 30-day movie challenge. Thought I didn't have the Blu-ray. Turns out I did have the Blu-ray. I was just blind, you know. But yeah, moving on to my number 6 pick, and that is for Spider-Man. Yes, the very first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. So why not Spider-Man 2? Because I know Spider-Man 2 is everyone's favorite of the Sam Raimi trilogy. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong. Like, I really enjoyed rewatching these 3 films last year when I did the 30-day, and not the 30-day movie challenge, the trilogy month. And I really enjoyed, you know, rewatching them, reliving my childhood, because it's been 20 years since I last watched them. And I missed out on seeing them in cinema last year when they were all being shown week to week. And when I rewatched them, I realized that Spider-Man 1, in my opinion, is slightly better than Spider-Man 2. It is. And out of all the Spider-Man films, because I haven't seen The Amazing Spider-Man, so those don't count. But in terms of the Sam Raimi trilogy and the trilogy that we already had for the Tom Holland trilogy, this is the best Spider-Man film, in my honest opinion. So, we're now at the halfway point in this video, where we just have 5 more to go. And for those who are guessing that Star Trek First Contact has taken over my number 1 spot, you're wrong. You're just going to have to wait and find out what my number 1 is. But anyway, moving on to a brand new addition to my list, and that is a film that I discovered last year. I watched it twice this year. Once by myself as a rewatch, and then once to show the people in my course. And they all loved it, and obviously I love it. And that is Ethel and Ernest. So this movie is based on a book by Raymond Briggs. You know, the guy that wrote the Snowman book that's on every Christmas, that has the song We're Walking Through the Air. Yeah, this is based off of his parents. And it is an amazing film. You know, and again, this is another one that I'm not going to talk too much about, because it was one of those, it was in that video where I talked about 3 movies that are underrated that I think you should watch. This was one of them. So go check that video out to find out my reasonings for that. Anyway, we're now down to the top 4. And my number 4 used to be my number 1. That's right, Howl's Moving Castle has dropped from 1 to 4. Don't get me wrong, I still really enjoy this film. It's a good film. There's a reason for the longest time it was my favorite movie of all time. But the more I think about these next 3 films, the more I think they beat this out. They really do. And don't get me wrong, like, I don't know, this is the only Studio Ghibli film that I've seen. I need to go watch the others. I will watch them eventually, but for right now, this was my favorite movie of all time, but now it's sitting at number 4. So, moving on to the top 3. And in the 3rd place, we have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the first of two Jim Carrey films to make their appearance. For the longest time, I was always saying that The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind always flip-flopped between third and fourth. And now it has a permanent place at number three because it's a great movie. It really is. I loved it the first time I watched it. Then when I rewatched it for a review, I caught all the things that I missed the second time, because this is a film that you do need to watch twice. You need to watch it through the first time just to soak it all in, and then watch it the second time to catch all the things that you missed on the first viewing. And it's amazing like that. That's storytelling that you don't really see nowadays in modern cinema. And Jim Carrey does a phenomenal performance in this. In my opinion, he does a better performance in The Truman Show, but we'll get to The Truman Show now in a second. But yeah, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is my number 3 pick. So then we move on to number 2, which hasn't changed since the last one, and that's Star Trek First Contact. I know a lot of you probably thought that have been watching my channel for a while, thought that First Contact was going to be my favorite movie of all time. No, it's my second favorite film of all time, and it will always be my second favorite movie of all time, because as great as I proclaim it to be, as the best Star Trek movie of all time, I see its faults, and that's why I can't have it as my number 1, because to me it's near perfect, just not perfect. For me, my favorite film has to be perfect, and that's why my favorite film of all time is The Truman Show. And this is why I was thinking to myself, for after I finished doing the 30-day movie challenge, like, what if it's not Howl's Moving Castle, what is my favorite movie of all time? And I think it has to go to at this point, because this list is forever changing, The Truman Show is my favorite movie of all time, just for how amazing it is. Just how amazing Jim Carrey is. But I think before this he was, mainly doing the comedies and stuff, so this might have been his first, or one of his first serious roles. And then we get this, which is an absolutely amazing film. It predates reality TV, in a sense. This is essentially reality TV before reality TV became a thing. So yeah, The Truman Show is my number 1 favorite movie of all time, and that is going to wrap this video up. Let me know what your top 10 is, if you have a top 10, or at least your favorite film of all time, in the comments down below. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you all on the next upload, which is going to be a return of the classic Doctor Who reviews, where I'm going to be reviewing Evil of the Dalek. So I'll catch you all on the next upload for that one.